I set out a challenge. Can I create chess while playing chess? Here are the rules. At the same time, I start a 60-minute chess game on chess.com and create a fresh Unity project where I'll create the very game I'm playing. If I lose the match, I have to delete all the assets and code and start over. Would it be possible to handle such a high mental load? Let's give it a shot. I started by creating the pieces. I opened up Blender and whipped up the 6 pieces as fast as I could. They came out looking really crummy, but surprisingly, it's not the ugliest chess set I've ever seen. I returned to the game and forked his king and rook.
It's just too easy. I mean, really, it's just that easy.
Damn it.
In an attempt to save the run, I played on, but after I made another bonehead mistake, I was down 10 points of material and the game was hopeless. I had barely taken the first step in development and the game was already over. In the next attempt, my opponent played very slowly, so I was able to get a lot more done. I even got piece movement to work. He played so slowly that he completely drained his clock and lost. While that's good news for me, it was bad news for Unity because I wasn't even close to a finished product. But I think I have an idea of how to solve this problem. In the last 2 games, I spent about half the time focusing on what moves to make and the other half focusing on Unity. All I have to do is spend all my time working in Unity and making my moves as quickly as possible. Let's test out the strat. Oh my fucking god. You know what? Fuck it. I'm not doing this. Oh wow. Why am I even continuing this stupid game? Oh fuck. Oh.
So clearly, making moves too hastily in chess is not a good idea. Despite spending nearly all my time working in Unity, I never got up to coding piece movement like I did in Game 2 because I kept losing and having to restart. We need to refine the strategy. Let's keep moving quickly, but stay entirely on defense. That way, my opponent will be forced to think harder about how to infiltrate, and I'm a lot less likely to make a blunder. Let's try it out. This attempt went perfectly according to the plan. I spent the first 10 minutes piling all my pieces in front of my king, and had only spent 2 minutes on my clock. The game was totally locked up, and for about 30 minutes, neither player made any progress in the game. I literally moved my queen in a circle during this part. With all this extra time I generated, I was able to reach a new frontier in the Unity development, getting all the way to completing pawn, knight, and bishop movement. Things were going well, until suddenly, I made a game-costing mistake.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
I got cocky, and I didn't realize that my queen wasn't defended anymore. The game quickly fell apart, and you know what that means?
This pattern repeated itself for the next few games. I would lock down the position, work frantically and get a lot done, and then I'd make some huge mistake and lose.
I realize it's because of a flaw in my strategy. If all I do is defend, how am I ever going to win the game? At best, I'll only ever get a draw. I have to attack at least a little. Instead of the usual lockup, this game was a back and forth tussle. As a matter of fact, I managed to procure an advantage as we entered the endgame. By move 40, Stockfish says that I have a plus 10 advantage, and even better, I had reached an all-time best in Unity, getting all the pieces to move properly. But there was one catch. Since I was now spending more time in the chess game, I had burned through nearly all my time and was left with only 2 minutes left on the clock, and I still had a lot to do. I tried to keep the game going, but my opponent was making too many moves too quickly for me to be able to spend any more time in Unity. Eventually, my opponent won out, and I lost on time. If I could just save a little bit of time in development, I might be able to actually pull this off. That's when I made a huge breakthrough. The code controlling each square had a specific variable for keeping track of which piece is sitting on it. This made everything slower since I have to constantly update this variable as the pieces move around the board.
Then I realized that I could create a function which checks the 3D space above the square to find the piece automatically, which saved a lot of work. With this huge time save, I was sure I was going to win the next one.
And just like that, I was in the home stretch. I had gotten to the farthest point so far in development, where all pieces move correctly and capturing works. There wasn't much left to do, and there was a collective 20 minutes left on the clock. The game was tipped in my favor since my opponent had just made a huge blunder. At this point, he should have just resigned. Wait a minute. If my opponent resigns now, that would mean that I failed the challenge because that means I didn't technically finish chess before winning. If I make any more winning moves now, it's only going to make it even more likely for him to resign. I have to stop playing the game and use the rest of my time in Unity before I make another move. In 5 minutes, I had completed all the remaining features that would make the chess game viable. And just like that, I was done. The pieces can teleport through each other. Fuck. I completely forgot to check for this. All garage doors have something called an auto reverse feature, where if you step between these lasers while the door is closing, it will detect that something is blocking the line and the door will reverse itself to avoid crushing anything. I can use a similar mechanism where I use a raycast between the current and previous position of the move pieces, and if it hits any of the other pieces, then that means there's something in between them and the move is invalid. Perfect. Alright, now to win the game.
Oh my god.
So, after 12 games and nearly 10 hours of the most intense programming of my life, I finally succeeded at the challenge. My chess rating had dropped 100 points, but it didn't matter because I had completed the challenge of creating chess while playing chess and winning. There are some things that I never got to add, like en passant and pawns moving 2 spaces forward on their first move, but those are only small problems compared to the fact that there's no checks or checkmates. Meaning that if you forget to move your king out of the way of an attack and your opponent just takes your king, the game is over right then and there. Better pay attention. If for some reason you want to play my crummy version of chess, you can go to the link in the description. That was the most mentally draining thing I've ever done, and I'm going to go to sleep. See you in the next one.